Hello and welcome. This is Katie. Thanks so much for stopping by. I am back with another project for Maker Forte, and today I'm going to show you 2 ways to blend your alcohol inks. Now, I am specifically using Ranger alcohol inks, so the ones that are in the little dropper bottles. Of course, any brand is going to work fine, and you could even use your, Copic refill bottles if that's all you have. I've got 2 silhouette stamps, Dear Dad and Life is a Roller Coaster. I'm going to use the Dura Bright White synthetic paper. You could use Yupo or vellum for this too. And then of course I've got some alcohol inks. Now the panels there measure 4 by 5 1/4, just to give you a size reference. Now we're going to start with Dandelion, Valencia, Coral, and Gumball. Now I'm going to list for each of the panels the colors that I used in the order that I used them down in the description box below. They'll also be over on my blog post for Maker Forte at Maker Forte's blog. And then I'm going to also do a blog post on my website, eastwickspaperandink.com. So you've got several places that you can go to check out the colors that I used. Now, the key to this first technique is saturating your panel. So I'm making sure to use several drops of each of the colors to cover my panel. Now I'm adding a little bit more of the Valencia down there in the corners to make sure every inch of my panel is covered. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more yellow because what I have in my mind for the stamp sets that I'm using for this panel, I want to make sure I have enough yellow for this panel that I'm going to create. So next up, we're going to do this again. We're going to use Sailboat Blue. We're going to use Aquamarine, Glacier, Turquoise, Cobalt, Pool, Mermaid, Laguna, Patina, Clover, Pistachio, and Limeade. Now, that's 12 colors. It's probably a bit excessive, but I had something specific in mind, and if you Google dark green sky, that's what I was going for. And there's a couple times that these types of skies appear. One, you sometimes see them in the northern lights, and sometimes you see them just before a tornado is going to hit or a large hailstorm, which is horrible, but pretty cool. And so that's what I was after in my mind. And I felt that I needed all the blues and greens that I had in my collection to be able to get the look that I was going for. Now, I will say this, that the last color that I use, which is Limeade, is the key to this whole thing. To get the bright, glowy green that I was after. Now, this color combination here too would work great for Halloween sky backgrounds and things. So definitely a couple different options with this color combination. But again, we're using gravity to blend our colors together. So this is one way, using gravity and your alcohol inks to be able to blend the colors together. Now, if I wasn't going to be showing you a second technique, that panel there would work perfect for one of the stampings that I'm going to do. But I did let these completely air dry. And now I'm going to come in, I've got a little box, I've got some 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm saturating this panel. Now you see where the alcohol ink separated and you see some of that white. Don't be alarmed. Keep spritzing. You want enough alcohol on there, the isopropyl alcohol, to blend and saturate the colors. So keep spritzing when you get those little splotches, and then that way your ink will flow together. Again, using gravity to blend those colors together will allow you to create some nice, cool blends. Now, once you get to the point that you've got the color blend that you want, use a hair dryer or your Ranger Heat It tool. Again, I'm going to do that here with the blues and the greens. Don't use your heat gun, your embossing gun. It's way too hot and it's going to warp or even melt depending on, your substrate that you're using. Don't use the heat gun. Hair dryer, if nothing else, is what I recommend you use to dry your panels. Now, again, saturated that nicely with my 91% isopropyl alcohol. You could use 99, I think they have out there that you can get online. Don't use anything less than the 91. Walmart, CVS, all the stores. I get mine at Sam's or Costco because I can get them in 2 packs. but don't use anything less than the 91 for the isopropyl alcohol. Now I've got my panel blended the way I want, and now I'm using my hairdryer to dry my panel. And I really need to get a splat box because that would fit in frame a lot easier than this big box that I'm using. So I do apologize. I had to maneuver things around. Now here I want to show you, I created some acetate overlays. I actually used VersaFine Onyx Black ink, not thinking, and stamped it on the acetate, but I use some clear embossing powder over top. So that's totally an option if you don't have like StazOn or something. But the overlays are important, I think, because with rubber stamps, you can't see through them. And unlike the photopolymer where you can check things out, check your colors to see how things are going to look, or maybe you need to rotate your panel because the color looks better a different way. Creating those acetate overlays is definitely a big help. So I'm replaced my sticky grid and put some brand new sticky grid in there because I need to make sure that my alcohol panel doesn't move. Really important for this. I know because I had an old one in there and it lifted off, and you just can't line it up again no matter what you do. Probably if I had stamped on another piece of acetate, I probably could have got it lined up again. But honestly, sometimes when I'm crafting, I'm not always thinking until after the fact that I'm editing these videos. So that's an option too, is to stamp on some acetate if your panel ever moves like that, and you can get things lined up again. And then you don't necessarily have to start over because you've double stamped, right? So I'm inked up and I'm using Ranger's Archival Black ink because I wasn't sure about any other ink pad. I didn't want to have to deal with any type of embossing or anything like that. So I just went with the Ranger Archival ink. Now, I did stamp this numerous times, drying in between. And then I got to a point where I could quick ink up and stamp to deepen up like the deer and stuff like that, so that I had some more solid black. So really the stamping portion just takes a little bit of time, but I recommend using your hairdryer to dry your ink when you're stamping and in between each stamping until you get the color depth and saturation that you're looking for. Now I'm showing you this again because there was too much yellow in the panel initially from my first spritz. And so I wanted to show you that you can do it again. What's great about this is that because you've saturated your panel so much with your alcohol inks, you're not going to lose the vibrancy even by adding your isopropyl alcohol. Sometimes when you're using isopropyl alcohol, you'll find that your inks become lighter because you're thinning them out, and they recommend the blending solution so that you don't lose the vibrancy. But here I'm showing you that you're not going to lose that vibrancy. No matter how much isopropyl alcohol you use on your panel, it still stays nice and vibrant. But the key is to making sure that you use, enough of your inks on your initial inking of your panel that you won't lose that vibrancy. And really you saw it was like 3 or 4 drops, maybe a couple more depending on the color that I used. So I really didn't use that much actual alcohol ink on the panels to be able to get this vibrancy. So again, inking up with the Archival Black ink, and I'm going to stamp this 3 times using my hairdryer in between each stamping. And that's for the roller coaster. Now, when I go and do the hedge, I stamp that up several more times because this one is has more solid space, especially towards the base of the trees. So again, just use your hairdryer and dry in between each stamping, and that way you'll be able to build up that color. The other thing I want to mention is don't hold, this is plastic paper, if you will. It's plastic. So you can't treat this like you would regular stamping on cardstock. Cardstock, we tell you stamp down, keep it there for a second, let that ink absorb in. This isn't the same thing. because it's a plastic, it's going to keep lifting off your ink. So you want to be quick about your stamping. Ink up your stamp, close your lid, mush down, lift up. Don't hold your stamp and your ink down, otherwise it's going to keep lifting up your black ink. But here's the panels. They're not quite dry, so I'm not going to put them on card bases just yet. I'm going to let them air dry. But I love how vibrant these came out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure and check the description box below for Maker Forte's Facebook group and share your makes over there. We love to see what you guys are making. And here is a playlist for some alcohol ink videos. One of them is some tips and tricks videos that I did a couple years ago that I think you'll find very helpful for alcohol inks. But that's going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.